Hi guys, welcome to another episode of our project review series, and today we're going to be talking about Zyon Grand. So this is already the third to fourth launch in the 𝑭𝒊𝒏𝒈𝒄𝒃 and River Valley area. So do we have concerns about whether is there too many units around here, about whether is it too much oversupply? Later on we'll address a bit of this. And because the land tender bit of Zyon Grand comes together with the service apartment, so I'm also curious as to how does this service apartment affect this condo in terms of the pricing and the performance. As well as in this video we're going to compare Zyon Grand's pricing together with the surrounding new launches like River Green and Promenade Peak to see if we can spot any gaps that we can take advantage of when Zyon Grand launches. So besides this Zyon Grand itself, during this month of September to October, we have about 5 launches coming. So very likely you will be interested in not just one project, but minimum of 2 to 3 projects. So I take Zyon Grand for example, very likely you will be interested in Sky on Holland and Penrith as well, because they have very similar attributes and they're around the same vicinity, which is close to the central area. So my question here is, how are you going to manage your queue number, let's say when you decide to put checks in 3 projects for example, because we have found a way to simulate the likely units available when it comes to a queue number. So during that busy weekend of launches, you will be able to decide which project you should be prioritizing on based on our calculations and estimations. So with that being said, let's get down to it. Zyon Grand is located in Kim Seng Road, and this is in District 3, address of 3 and 5 Kim Seng Road. So in this locality, right, I feel that the postal code aside, this location itself is very prime despite it being District 3. So if you look back on the past performance or the rentals of Riviere, you can see that the rental rates here, even though it's District 3, is very high. End of the day, I think it's still the locality surrounding your condo that affects the demand and the performance of the project itself. So just a quick intro, in case you haven't already know, Zyon Grand is located right just on top of Havelock MRT and is within proximity to Great World City. And Great World City is not a shabby mall, it's a very big mall. They have refurbished this mall recently and there's a lot of new additions inside. Not only that, it's also near to the 𝑭𝒊𝒏𝒈𝒄𝒃 dining and bar areas. And this part of River Valley, what I appreciate about here, which is similar to Promenade Peak, is that it's actually near to the heartlands of Tiong Bahru area as well. So if you need to visit your heartland shops or if you want to go to those kopitiam, you know, all these are actually very nearby within proximity to Zyon Grand. And not only that, besides being close to all this, right, we are actually just 2 MRT stops away from Orchard Road. And I believe that even if you take a bus, it's just a few stops down and it's just a couple of minutes right to Orchard Road. And not forgetting that in terms of the connectivity, right, you're also close to CTE and AYE. And for nature lovers, you know, just head downstairs, you'll be very close to this Alexandra Park connector, which if you jog along this connector, it can actually lead you all the way down to Marina Bay area, which is quite nice. Also by train, right, we can see that Havelock MRT is within just 1 stop to Ultra Interchange and 2 stops to Orchard, as well as 3 stops to Marina Bay. So this area is very well connected, even in terms of the MRT station. From just 1 to 2 stops from Havelock, you can already access another different line. And coming on to this oversupply issue, right, as mentioned just now, to be honest, there's a couple of projects launching here. We have River Green, which has already launched with 524 units, together with Promenade Peak in the same weekend. They have 596 units. And today we're going to be talking about Zyon Grand, which has 706 units. So upcoming, what do we have? Possibly we have another River Green Parcel C. Currently it's still under the URA land tender sales, so nobody has purchased this land yet, but this site can potentially build about 470 units. And come next year or end of this year, likely we will have River Modern, which is River Green Parcel B from Guaco Land, and it can yield about 470 to 570 units. So is this an oversupply issue or not? Because when you calculate the total units here, potentially it can go up to almost 2,800 to 2,900 units. And is this a concern? I've actually done another video talking about oversupply. Maybe I'll drop the link over in this description. But I just want to talk about this area itself. When we're talking about this locality, as mentioned, there are a couple of projects like Zyon Grand, Promenade Peak, River Green, and River Modern. But if you look closely at the location of Zyon Grand itself, actually I'm not sure if you're familiar, but Zyon Grand is the one that is the most connected in terms of the main roads. So over here we have Havelock Dangerous Avenue, we have Zyon Road, and we have Kim Seng Road. These 3 roads itself are major roads, and that means that a lot of people are going to be passing by this condo. So compared to maybe the other condos in the River Valley area like Riviere or even River Modern, right, these other condos are a bit more hidden, which is good and bad depending on how you see it. But what I'm trying to say here is that Zyon Grand is something that you will not miss out when you drive past or you walk past. In fact, even from far away, right, and because it's up to 62 stories and there's 2 tall towers of these 62 stories, it is very hard to miss out on Zyon Grand's facade. And even at night, there's going to be beautiful lighting that is going to light up on the roofs of the 2 towers as well as the service apartment. So this is going to be something very important in an area where there's going to be a lot of projects that's going to be TOP at the same time, because you want to get something that is the most outstanding, and that's where people will actually want to visit this place first. So you get first dips in terms of the attraction that comes from the buyers. And this number of units that's going to be launching here may be beneficial for you, because if I have another 2 to 3 land parcels that's going to launch after me, and in fact even for this launch weekend there's another 4 launches coming, then there's a very good chance that Zyon Grand itself, if I'm the developer, I would not want to price it too high in a way that my units cannot be sold. But at the same time, upon TOP, come TOP, there's a chance that I may be able to sell the highest, because this will likely be the most visible project among the rest here. In fact, even from far away from all parts of Singapore, as you're driving, there's a very high chance that you'll be able to see Zyon Grand, not just because of the lighting, but because of the interesting infrastructure that they have, because of the shape of the building as well. And this is going to be something very tall that extends out to 62 stories, and you're going to be able to see this project from very, very far away. As mentioned, right, these 3 buildings will give a very, very strong pull to people that are actually going to be driving by. So as mentioned, 62 stories of luxury residences, and it's shaped in a way where I'll explain a bit more about the design concept later. So not only do they have residences here, and people coming to Singapore in a short period of time or to mid-term, potentially they can also stay in this long stay service apartment, and that brings about additional presence and visibility to other people. And not only that, they also do have restaurants, supermarket, and a early childhood development center here, together with the train station. So this is going to be something that a lot of people will be able to notice, and it will be something that is very iconic in this area. Maybe take for example like reflections at Keppel Bay, where you drive past the West Coast Expressway or you drive along Telok Blangah Road. It is something that you will not miss because it looks so iconic and the building is so tall, right? And that's something that Zyon Grand or even Promenade Peak will be able to enjoy when people are actually in the vicinity of this area. This development is developed none other by CDL, and they're one of the top developers in Singapore. And this time round, they actually have a partnership with this Japanese developer called Mitsui Fudosan Group. So they don't have business just in Japan, but they have global presence around the world. And not only that, they actually developed Tokyo's Disneyland. So this goes to show that there is a lot of pedigree in terms of the developers that will be developing Zyon Grand. So earlier on, we were talking about the residential component and the service apartment and the shops component. So the residential component will be called Zyon Grand, and we do have a name for the retail and lifestyle component, and that is called the Zyon Galleria. So it will consist of the retail and lifestyle component of the restaurants, F&B, together with the supermarkets, early childhood development center, and not forgetting the MRT station itself. And I just want to spend a few minutes to talk about the service apartment, because in Singapore, there are typically 3 kinds of accommodation. We have short-term stay, medium-term stay, and long-term stay. And typically, short-term stay are referring to the hotels. And we can see from here, this is from the Smart Local, the latest hotels they have just opened and renovated, and you can look at their daily rates. So this is the cost of short-term stay in Singapore. And of course, we have those iconic hotels like Marina Bay Sands, where the rates can be so much higher just for one night. And even though you can pay, you'll not necessarily be able to get a room as well. Thereafter, we move to mid-term accommodation, and that usually ranges from about 1 month or more, but the minimum stay is 7 days. So I've taken out a service apartment over in the River Valley area because I want to study what is the impact of this service apartment on the residential component. And we can see over here, this is Fraser Residences River Promenade, and it's at 𝑑𝒓𝒐𝒑𝒆𝒄. So if you're familiar with this road, it is the service apartment that comes together with the Riviera condo, and this is the service apartment component. So we can see that for a daily rate, the rate is about $268 or so. And for 29 nights, let's say in the month of November, that brings up a total cost of almost 7,800 for the month of November. And this is just for 1 guest and 1 room. And when I take a deeper look inside this pricing, right, I found out that this pricing, okay, it actually belongs to a studio apartment, which is 24 square meters. And that means that the size is approximately 258 square feet. So if I were to book it for 30 days based on this member rate, right, then potentially every month it will set me back about $8,000. And that is only for the studio unit. But if I'm talking about the 1 bedroom, right, we have 40 square meters here, which is approximately 430 square feet. So applying the same 30 nights to this pricing of $389, right, then that means that the cost of staying for the month of November here will be more than 11,000. So how does it affect the rental of Riviera itself? Because it's just beside, right? So I think all these service apartments, and we can see from the picture here, this is Riviera, and the service apartment is just right here. They are managed and developed by Frasers. And why some people, they even want to take short-term or mid-term stays, because maybe when they come to Singapore for the first time, they are not so sure whether they want to stay in this area, or they're not so sure whether they're gonna like this place. So usually they will rent this place for a couple of weeks or couple of months to see if they like this area and the location. They don't mind paying more because that means that they don't have to be tied down for a longer period of time, right? But the thing is that a lot of them, let's say after they've been staying here for a while, maybe in Fraser Residences, maybe they've stayed here for 6 months and they're very happy with the place. But the monthly cost for this service apartment, it adds up to more than 10,000. So when it comes to having the plans long term, right, a good number of them, if they're very comfortable with the area and the developments around here, then there's a very high chance that they will move nearby or even next door. So a good number of them, when they check the rents for the almost equivalent size, let's say 1 bedroom, because over here we have a studio for 8,000 for Fraser service apartment and 11,000 for a 1 bedroom. And when we compare with the Riviera's 1 bedroom price, right, for rental, they actually save more than half of this amount. This will help to feed the rental over for the residential component in terms of the rental. And not only that, it also helps to bring up the price because there's already a very strong support base in terms of the rental rates for the service apartment. And that's how a service apartment typically impacts the residential component. But we also have to be very careful in terms of what kind of service apartments that they have, because even for service apartments, there are different levels. And over here for Fraser's Residences, it is a good developer. And that's why it's so important that the residential or this whole development of Zyon Grand be built by a good developer, because that will determine or shape the rental rates that will be upcoming for the residential components as well. Because when we look at the land bid that was done last year in April 2024, there are 2 things that we have to take note of. Firstly, there's only 1 bid, okay? And secondly, the land bid price is relatively low at 1,202, because when we compare the land bids with Promenade Peak or River Green, the bid for for Zyon Grand is lower, and we have to understand why. Because for this piece of land that we have here, we can really see from the facade that 2 towers is residential and 1 is service apartment. That means when they put $1.1 billion into this land itself, they only get to sell these 2 towers. They have to spend money to build these towers, they're able to sell, but this service apartment itself, not only they have to pay for the land, okay, if we take by ratio, let's say 1/3 of the land, that's easily about 300 million sunken cost in to build the land itself, which they cannot cash out immediately in the form of residential sales. And not only that, they also have to build up a separate tower and separate facilities for this service apartment. So that means that on top of this 300 million, there is a lot more sunken in cost that they have to give for this service apartment. So long story short, right, not a lot of developers have these 2 things. Firstly, the financial power to put in 1 billion, or the financial power to put in more than $1 billion for the land, and not being able to recoup a good part of it, because a lot of the cost and maintenance will be sunken in for the service apartment. That's number 1. And number 2, it already takes some time for you to rent out the service apartment and then collect back these service apartment rentals to cover back the cost. It will already take some time. But the thing is, if this developer is not strong in this hospitality business, then they may not be able to handle this well, and as a result, the rental rates that come from this service apartment may not be high, and that will delay the amount of time required for them to recoup back this cost. And there's one more, number 3, when I put in this extra money that cannot be taken out in the meantime, right, that means that there's also opportunity cost. That also denies the company an additional funding that they can actually use to purchase or do their other business. Because let's say, for example, just now as I mentioned, maybe this land bill of 1.1 billion, maybe 300 million is set aside for the land of this service apartment. Can I, as another developer, can I use this 300 million to form part of the money to buy and develop another land? So these are the opportunities that they will be foregoing if they have to commit to something like that. And honestly, in Singapore, there is not a lot of developers who have this kind of firepower and who is competent enough to do the hospitality arm. In Singapore, I can tell you less than this amount of developers are able to do it, and Fraser's already in this area. So CDL, not only they are good in the property development, but they also have a respectable hospitality arm because they are operating the Millennium and Copthorne hotels, and they also do have stakes in St. Regis and JW Marriott as well. So I believe that this is the right developer for this project. And not only that, in my opinion, they've also done up a very nice and iconic design to sort of package everything very nicely. We will see in the next slide the design concept. At first glance, when I look at the facade, it looks a lot like a condo called 𝑭𝒊𝒓𝒄𝒄𝒄, which was developed by CDL previously as well. It's done very well. Maybe that shape gives it a very good feng shui. But anyway, coming back to Zyon Grand, right? They have used our national flower, the Vanda Miss Joachim, as a symbol of this development. So the shapes that coming out, right? When you look down from a cross-sectional view, it actually looks like the petals of this orchid. And when we go down the different levels, it looks like the different petals actually stacking down together. And this also happens to embody the Japanese art of this flower arrangement called ikebana. So rest assured, right? These curves that we see here, they are not part of the space of the house. They are not considered under the strata area. So this is merely just for aesthetic purposes, which will not make your layout odd at all. You will still get a regular shaped layout inside the house. And as mentioned, this view here really looks like 𝑭𝒊𝒓𝒄𝒄𝒄. We have 3 towers coming in, and I was saying that at night, not only the top will light up, but it will light up at the different facility levels as well. And this is going to be something very, very iconic that you really won't miss when you're around the area. And the reason is also because of its height. When we look at 63 stories or 62 stories, right? Surrounding us, the buildings are only about 20 stories, just directly, and then more towards the east side. Once you are above 44 stories, we get to clear almost all, if not everything, around this area, except for Promenade Peak in front, which is also 62 stories as well. So the other tallest building here, Riverbed, is also 43 stories. So once we hit the floor of about 44 to 45 stories, basically we can consider to be unblocked. And that also means that, you know, the visibility of this condo is going to be very, very strong. We do have some views over to the north side as well as the south side, and this is coming from the 40th story. So take note that even at the 40th floor towards the south side, right, you are already able to see Sentosa and the water views towards the south. That's why they have made the bigger units to be facing southwards. We also have the view towards 60th story, and 60th story is the clearance that you will get towards this side. Okay, you'll be able to see Ion Orchard. In fact, actually, when you're staying around River Valley area, you should be able to see Ion Orchard as well, because it is also one of the tallest building around there. And likely, Promenade Peak will be blocking this view. That's why they have tilted a bit more eastwards, so they get to enjoy a lot of the city views here, especially for units above the 45th floor. The same goes for the south view. At 60th floor, your clearance is better. You'll be able to see more into the ocean with these islands behind, and you get more clearance from these properties here as well. The concept architect of this project is 𝑑𝒓𝒐𝒂𝒂𝒑𝒐𝒓𝒄𝒄. They have also designed iconic structures around the world, like this Tokyo Skytree we can see here, also having unblocked views around the city. So Zyon Grand potentially could be something that has the experience building something that is very tall, that overlooks down on its surroundings as well. And the project architect is ADDP Architect. They have already done a lot of properties in the central area, and most recently the one that just TOP is 𝑭𝒊𝒓𝒄𝒄𝒄 Residences. So this is also developed by CDL, and the architect is also ADDP. So this is a very nice project. I do encourage that maybe if you're considering Zyon Grand, maybe you might want to arrange a viewing for 𝑭𝒊𝒄𝒄𝒄 Residences as well. Feel the landscaping, feel the architecture, and that is the same kind of standard they're going to be carrying over to Grand Zyon as well. Okay, and not forgetting the landscape consultant and builder. So I guess they just stick to what works, in a sense that they are rehiring the people that have been doing 𝑭𝒊𝒄𝒄𝒄 Residences experiences in terms of the architect, the landscape consultant, and the builders itself. So all these are tried, tested, and proven partners, which will ensure that you will get good quality over at Zyon Grand. On to the project details. So as mentioned just now, this consists of 2 blocks of 62 residential development and 1 tower of 36 stories long stay service apartment with restaurants, supermarket, and a childhood development center downstairs. So this will be at 3 and 5 Kim Seng Road with expected possession around 2032. We have 706 residential units with a total car park of 595. However, when we are looking at the residential component, it consists of 565 lots, which is about 80% allocation in terms of the car park. And if you have watched my Promenade Peak video, we also noticed that Promenade Peak allows a higher percentage allocation in terms of the cars and compared to River Green. And in my opinion, that's why Zyon Grand, they are more comfortable to build bigger units, because usually bigger units are more for own stay, and people who are staying in the 3, 4, and 5 bedroom, they are more likely to be driving in this area as well. They are more likely to own cars as well. In terms of the unit mix, I think this is a very good mixture. And why do I say so? Because the concept is clear in the sense that they want more people for own stay to be buying this project. That's why a lot of the unit allocations have been allocated to the 3 bedrooms, as well as the bigger 2 bedroom types like their 2 bedroom plus study. And not only that, for their 1 bedroom plus study, they only have 1 stack with 59 units. So this project is very focused and targeted, and I think they know their target audience very well. Later on, when we dissect the sizes and the pricing, you will understand what I'm talking about. Here is the elevation chart, and it's very simple. Most of the units we have here are 1 stack all the way up to the top. That means that there's not much changes in terms of the unit types along the different floor levels, because for example, like when we see Promenade Peak, after a certain level, it looks totally different from 44th floor onwards for Promenade Peak. But for Zyon Grand, it's a lot more consistent. So we do get premium units like the bigger 3 bedrooms. The range starts from level 2 all the way to level 61. So there's a chance that you may be able to enter at a very decent and low quantum compared to Promenade Peak, because their premium 3 bedrooms starts from 45th floor and above. And that means that in terms of the PSF, if I multiply by the size, it's going to be a higher pricing compared to Zyon Grand, and this may be something that you can take advantage of. But as well, at this topic, only 2 stacks will have different unit types when it comes to the floor levels. One is stack 1 and one is stack 8. So stack 1 and stack 8 are the 4 bedrooms, and after 43rd floor, when it comes to the 44th floor onwards, right, then they will start to have the 5 bedrooms and the bigger 4 bedroom types. So that also restricts the number of super big units that they are going to have here, but while at the same time still maintaining decent enough sizes that will be available in Zyon Grand. And as you can see from here, level 22, level 43 is their facilities deck as well. And when we take a closer look at the elevation chart, we can see that in terms of the levels, we have basement 2 and basement 3 for their residential car park, and there's 2 other levels, which is the upper first level and the lower first level, which I'll explain a bit more because it can be quite confusing. So they have 2 ancillary levels in terms of the upper first and lower first, but essentially it's like a first floor and basement 1 and basement 1 in terms of the floor levels. So here is the site map and our facilities. The car arrival is via Kim Seng Road, and we have 3 main zones. In terms of the facilities, we have the social habitat area, which is near to block 3. We have the relaxation lagoon, which is just in front of block 3 as well. And for block 5, we have the wellness oasis. I'll show you a bit more pictures of these facilities in the coming slides, and do take note that for Zyon Grand itself, we do have a tennis court. So this is what I meant just now in the form that we have a upper first deck and the lower first deck, because the land over at the service apartment area this side, this land over here, this is a service apartment, this land over here is slightly higher, while the rest of the land this side is slightly lower. So in order to make everything uniform for the residential units, right, they have used this side as the landscape deck, and this access is actually the landscape deck for the other portion. So you will get 2 different layers of the landscaping decks, and inside and below, this will be the restaurants, supermarket, as well as the access from the Havelock Road MRT. So Havelock Road MRT station, the exit will be just here, and that can actually lead you directly to block 5 itself. Here are some pictures of the indoor recreational spaces. We have the gym over here and the central club. So not forgetting, we also have things like the yoga studio, the media room, and the game studio as well, and some of the facilities that we are seeing. So this is a very good example of how the landscaping deck will look like in terms of like we have 2 different levels. This is the lower first deck, and then upstairs here, this will be the upper first deck. So on the upper first deck, this will be how it looks like, and we have several pools over here. And the facilities for the service apartment will be separate from the residential components as well. So the residential units, they get to enjoy their own facilities, and they do not share with the service apartment's own facilities. And for Zyon Grand itself, we will be having the residential host service from CDL. So it's a very nice living experience in a sense that you will get reception service, you get concierge, and they're able to make arrangements for you in terms for your transport and for your visitors. And apart from that, they'll also be organizing the residential events for the residents over here, which is a very nice touch to have for this development. And this is a place where it's going to be a very high standard of living. So you're able to do several service requests like hotel, restaurant reservations, and they can assist you to arrange a private chef for your parties as well. So just some disclaimer, whatever we talk about, whatever we describe here will be for educational purposes, and please do your own due diligence before you decide to buy any properties. When it comes to the pricing of the River Valley properties that we have seen, right here we have River Green and here we have Promenade Peak. So River Green is 36 stories tall, and usually what they will do is they will set a top floor price that they cannot exceed, and in this case it's an average of approximately 3,360. So in order to get the starting price, we will usually have an average per floor increment, and for River Green itself is about 0.49%. So when we mark down from 36th floor down to the first floor, on average the starting PSF is approximately 2,860. And for Promenade Peak, because the floor range is much higher at 62 floors, so when they set a top floor price, even though it can be higher than River Green, but when we do the per floor increment and we calculate down to the first floor, on average, the starting PSF can be lower than River Green. So this is a calculation that we can apply for Zyon Grand itself. But just talking about this situation, in this scenario, what happened back then was that Promenade Peak have the lowest starting per square foot, but because they wanted to build units of a certain minimum size, that's why in terms of the quantum, River Green's smaller quantum, even though the PSF is higher, allows it to have a lowest starting price among these two, while Promenade Peak has a lower starting PSF back then. Now we want to see how does Zyon Grand fit into this equation. So I'm just taking an assumption, and this is just my estimate. Perhaps Zyon Grand may want to price it a bit higher for their top floor units, considering the good sales of River Green and Promenade Peak as well. Maybe they want to sell for a higher price when they start from the top floor and they mark down onwards. And also because they have to factor in a higher costing because they will be building the service apartments and they have to maintain it as well. So if I use a top floor price of 3,650, and if I follow Promenade Peak's pricing of about 0.47% per floor, and when I mark down from 3,650 per square foot, that gives a starting per square foot of approximately 2,826. So what does this mean? It is likely not the lowest PSF among these three, because Promenade Peak will remain likely as the lowest PSF among these three, and it may not be the lowest starting price in terms of the smallest unit, because for River Green at 420 square feet, the price may be slightly lower. But what happens for Zyon Grand is that for certain unit types, for example the 3 bedrooms in this instance, because of the lower PSF and because of the size, potentially right, some of the categories here can be the lowest starting price of its own category. And I'm going to share this estimated pricing with you later on for the different unit types. So we'll start from the Contemporary Sleek series, and that is for the 1 bedroom plus study to the 3 bedrooms, and this is how it will look like, and this is the design theme for them. Okay, and I'm going to go down to the layouts for the 1 bedroom plus study first. So the first unit over here is 474 square feet at stack 11. This is mainly northeast facing, and this is a 1 plus study layout. It is quite efficient here, and what I appreciate from this layout is that you do have a Jack and Jill bathroom access. In terms of like if you need to access the bathroom from the living room or from the master bedroom, is fine because they have sliding doors over here, and there's not much to choose from basically because it's just only one stack at stack 11, which comprises of 59 units, and this is not the main unit type that they will be building in Zyon Grand. But when we do a comparison with the competitors, we have River Green 1 plus study at 452 square feet, and Promenade Peak's 1 plus study over here is 527 square feet. In terms of the layout wise among these four, to be honest, my favorite layout is still River Green's layout because it's very efficient, and we have minimal space wastage in terms of the walkway space. Let's say if you compare to Zyon Grand or even Promenade Peak here, where there's a bit of space that is quite difficult to use here, except that if I were to use this space to do some shoe racks and not. And I also have this for Zyon Grand itself. Secondly, I have not measured this study room, but it seems to be on the small side, so that can make it quite difficult to use. But one thing you need to notice here is that for the 1 plus study, it does not come with any balcony, so potentially this area can actually be quite big compared to the one over at River Green. But it depends on your preference here. If it's for investment, then we have to weigh up the pricing together with the rental rates that will be. If we have to compare the total price together with the rental rates that we can generate over here, and not forgetting that for Zyon Grand itself, we do have a service apartment component, so potentially that may be able to help to push up the rental rates of Zyon Grand a little bit compared to River Green. And when we look at the pricing being done, this is just an estimate, purely just an estimate of the pricing for Zyon Grand. I've given 7 floor levels here and some pricings to estimate, and some of the expected pricings that I'm just used just for calculation purposes, and some of the pricings that has been being done for River Green itself. So for 1 bedroom, so just now we saw that the calculated price for Grand Zyon is actually 2,860. I have deducted $100 in terms of the starting price for the 1 plus study, because we have seen in this area that the 1 bedroom and the 1 plus study, the demand is not as high as we have seen for River Green 1 bedroom sales. That's why I took a discount in terms of the per square foot for the 1 bedroom for Grand Zyon. And these are the quantums if we multiply by the expected per square foot, which you can use to compare with the units over at River Green and Promenade Peak. So at certain floor levels, you may potentially get a similar pricing compared to River Green, and at certain levels, you may have to pay more. So it depends on your need. If you want to stay here and your budget only allows you to buy a 1-bedroom or 1+ study, then maybe you may want to consider Promenade Peak, because after all, the size is much bigger, it may be more livable for you. And moving on to the 2 bedrooms, the 2-bed 1-bath here starts from 538 square feet. There's only one stack as well as stack 5. And do take note, similar to the 1-bedroom plus study, it does not have any balcony space at all. So you really do get to enjoy this full 538 square feet in the unit. Moving on to the 2-bed 2-bath, we also only have one stack as stack 12. So this shape is a very familiar shape in the project next door, which I will show the floor plan comparisons later on. This one does come with a balcony, and because it's at the corner of the block, right, we do get windows over here for the master bathroom, in which a lot of 2-bedroom new launches don't enjoy. And you can see that the kitchen is actually recessed over here, because if I have the wall here and if I have the kitchen here, then it will look so much more obvious when I'm entering into the unit. So I think that this is a nice touch that we have for the 2-bed 2-bath. And just now I forgot to add on is that we do have 6 units a level for Grand Zyon in terms of the number of units per floor. And out of these 6 units, one of the unit will have already private lift. So the lift sharing will only be between 5 units, which in my opinion is considered very little. Moving on to the 2+ study, you can start to see that they have built another extra stack compared to only one stack for the 2-bed 2-bath, 2-bed 1-bath, and the 1-bedroom plus study. So this is where the emphasis come in. I think they really want to cater to people who want to stay here by building them more units to choose from. So we have stack 4 and stack 10. They are still mainly north to northeast facing, and it's tilted in such a way to avoid Promenade Peak, because Promenade Peak will be over to this side. That's why they have tilted the blocks to be more eastwards a little bit. We have an efficient dumbbell shape over here. So when we enter, we have a study as a side, which we can use as a study space or a storage space as well. And then as we come in, the kitchen is semi-tucked in a sense that it's to one side. So this will avoid the complaints whereby, because sometimes when I'm serving resale buyers, when we go and see the smaller bedroom types, they will tell me, hey Jay, when I come in straight away, I see the kitchen. And kitchen is the messiest part of the house. That's not so nice, right? So by having this layout that is slightly tucked in at this corner, even though it's not fully tucked in, I think it can still help a bit. Eventually, if you do want to so-called section off this area a little bit, you can still install some sliding glass panels over here as well. And just take note that for this layout over here, this is the facade, the orchid shapes that will be coming out. So for stack 10, right, which is over at block 5, they do have an extra wall protruding out. And the reason why I think they are doing that is just to have more privacy for the master bedroom, because this wall actually extends out over this side, and this is for the master bedroom. So that is a very, very nice touch that they have done for the 2-bed 2-bath plus study. And when we come to the competition in terms of the layout, I have segmented them according to 2-bed 1-bath, 2-bed 2-bath, and 2+ study. This is the 2-bed 1-bath in the vicinity, and we can see that Zyon Grand at 538 square feet is actually competing with the 2-bed 1-bath over at River Green. So they have 527 square feet itself. Among River Green itself, okay, if you haven't watched our video analysis, feel free to tune in. Among River Green itself, even for the 2-bed 1-bath, my preferred one is over this side, because for the dining space, there's more backing over here for the dining table as compared to this one. And if you have visited the show flat, you will know what I mean. So for Zyon Grand, they do have this space catered over here for the dining set as well. And for Zyon Grand, you do get to enjoy this full 538 square feet in the unit itself, because it does not have a balcony. And later on, when we look at the pricing, we can analyze that which might potentially be a better buy. And moving on to the 2-bed 2-bath, River Green's 2-bed 2-bath is at 603 square feet. So it offers a tuck-in kitchen over here, as well as a dumbbell layout. And for Promenade Peak, they have a couple of 2-bed 2-bath layout. I merely take the smallest 2-bed 2-bath and the biggest 2-bed 2-bath. For Promenade Peak, this is my favorite 2-bed 2-bath, because there's minimum wastage in terms of the walkway. Once I come in, I'm coming to an L-shaped kitchen, and then I'm at my living area, and the walkway space wastage here is very, very small. But most of the other 2-bed 2-bath layouts in Promenade Peak, they are more of an L shape, and this is very, very similar to Grand Zyon as well. So main difference over here is that when we can see most of their living dining space is together here, and then over here you do have some countertops, especially for these 689 square feet. But for Grand Zyon, one thing that sets it apart is that, as I mentioned just now, the kitchen is recessed in. So this side is the kitchen area, and we can better enjoy this space as our living and dining. And not only that, for Grand Zyon, the 2 bedrooms are also at the corner unit, so we do have ventilation windows over at least for the master bathroom. And moving on to the 2-bedroom plus study. So over here we have 3 projects. River Green at 657 square feet, Promenade Peak we have 764, 797, and one more. I've only just put the smallest and the biggest one here lah. And then for Zyon Grand, ours is coming in at 721 square feet. So at a glance, looking at River Green's layout, I do like that they have a tuck-in kitchen over here. However, I feel that because of the overall size, right, the study room may be a little bit small. And one concern that I have here is the dining area again. So we see that this part protrudes out, and this is actually part of the dining area. So when there's another small wall here, I feel that this space to walk will be very, very narrow. So it may not be a sufficient enough space for you to house a proper dining. And let's say if you look at Promenade Peak, if you have seen a show flat, it's big enough to house the dining and living because the overall space is already very big. But what I don't really appreciate about this is that once I come in, it's very far away from the living room. So I have to walk so far to reach the living room. And over here, there is no windows. So this area will tend to be very, very dark, especially even in the daytime. Overall walkway around here and here is very, very long. So when we look at Zyon Grand, I think it's a perfect balance of the two. Firstly, we have the dumbbell layout in terms of the bedrooms, and the kitchen is tucked in at one side. So as mentioned just now, what I like about this is that, straight away when you come in, you're not looking at the kitchen directly, and then we have one side as a study room. And for this one, we don't have a Jack and Jill access to the bathroom, and that's good, which means that this part, if I don't have the door, then here I can use to build extra storage for the unit. So looking at it, let's say if you ask me regarding my preference, right, I do like the one in Zyon Grand because firstly it's not so small, at least it's 721 square feet, and this is already harmonized. Looking at the layout, let's say if I were to compare this sizing with the ones in Promenade Peak, then I'll definitely take Zyon Grand as my choice. So we on to the prices of the units. I have done up a table in terms of the 2 bedrooms of their pricing, of what is being done and what potentially might be the pricing for Grand Zyon. So just now for 1 bedroom, I discounted $100. And now when it comes to the 2, 3, 4, 5 bedrooms, we have used back the normal PSF. And I've calculated these floor levels according to the 0.47% increment jump. Of course, it might be differ from the actual pricing, but this is just something for you to calculate. And the different colors here represent the different unit types. So 2 bed 1 bath for River Green versus the 2 bed 1 bath for Zyon Grand. They are highlighted here in purple. And then for 2 bed 2 bath, I'm using more of the reddish brown color that we can see, and for 2 bedroom plus study, this will be the black color fonts that I have used. So you can see for 2 bed 1 bath itself, at certain floor levels, if the PSF is similar, but because Grand Zyon's 2 bed 1 bath is still bigger, so potentially the quantum can be higher as well. And I'm assuming that Grand Zyon uses the same starting per square foot for the 2 bed 1 bath compared to River Green. Of course, Promenade Peak has a lower per square foot, but because a lot of the 2 bed 2 bath units are relatively bigger compared to River Green and Grand Zyon, so some of the quantum can be higher for Promenade Peak compared to River Green. And if Grand Zyon uses a potentially similar pricing for their 2 bed 1 bath, then we have to take note that at certain price quantums, it can be cheaper than some of the 2 bedrooms here, which the layout may not be so good. And also we do have competition in the form of some of the 2 bed 2 baths over in Promenade Peak also can be of a lower price than Grand Zyon. But the good thing about Grand Zyon and Promenade Peak is that for Grand Zyon, there's not much supply that they're built here. So for this 2 bed 2 bath, there's only 59 units, so there's a lot less competition within the condo itself. And for 657 and 667 square feet, is only one stack. So the supply of the regular 2 bed 2 bath layouts among these 3 projects, the supply based on the good pricing is not so much as well. And moving on to the 2 plus study, this is the calculated price that comes out for the 2 plus study at Grand Zyon, and we can compare it over with the River Green and Promenade Peak's pricing. So one thing that I don't really like about Promenade Peak is really its layout. So if I'm given the same price of this and this, I probably will choose this one. And this is just my personal opinion. Of course, maybe you like the other projects or you really like the other layout itself because the study room is also quite a good size, then go ahead. And then we all have our own opinions, so you should just choose something that you really like. And moving on to the 3 bedrooms, okay, the first size is at 818 square feet. So they have managed to do a different kind of dumbbell in the sense that this is the dumbbell, a vertical dumbbell in my opinion. And from here, we do get one bathroom that have windows because this is a corner unit. So when I look at this layout, this is very, very similar to the 2 bed 2 bath that we have just now in terms of when I come in, the kitchen is tucked one side, I have my living dining here, and then the 2 bedrooms are at one corner, and I do get the windows for the master bathroom itself. And this is quite similar to the 2 bed 2 bath that we have over at Grand Zyon. So this one only at one stack, but when we move on to the 861 square feet, I think this will be something that's very popular. It's coming in at 861 square feet with 2 stacks at stack 3 and stack 9. So this being the corner unit, and they have more of a tuck-in kitchen over here. So we do have windows over at the kitchen, we have windows over at the master bathroom, and because the other bathroom is over at this front side, it is well rounded with, you do have ventilation for the other bathroom as well. So this is something that is very, very efficient. And not only that, they still carve out a small space for the privacy here, in the sense that when you open up the doors, you do not look directly into the living and dining area. And not only that, even for the kitchen, they have a half glass window here, so that allows the kitchen to be very bright, in the sense that the light will be coming in from here and here. So overall, this is a very, very good layout in my opinion, and that's something that is not being seen with River Green and Promenade Peak. This is a layout which I foresee that's going to be very popular among the buyers. And we have the 3 bed 3 bath plus study. What I like about this layout is that all the rooms are facing this side, are facing one side, okay, and all of them come with windows, which means that when they're all facing the same side, the house will be very, very bright because the light will come in into each bedroom, okay. And for the living and dining area, we do feature a portrait layout, but because there's a study here, potentially potentially, if you don't need this study space, then you can actually shift your dining set here and it can become a much bigger living dining area. And not only that, the frontage here is also very good. So even if you need a study, maybe potentially these two can be swapped. So you have a dining set here, and this side also have access to the balcony as well. And not only that, for this layout, we do have windows even for the purpose bath. Of course, all the bathrooms and the kitchen have window, and it comes with storeroom as well. So again, this is another layout that I like, compared similar to the 3-bed 2-bath that we saw just now. And this will be a stack 7. There's only one stack for this 1055 square feet, but we also have one more 3-bed 3-bath plus study. So the next one is a stack 2, and this is 1076 square feet. The layout is very similar to what we have previously. In terms of the features, they do have a landscape living and study area. We do have the bomb shelter over one side, and we do have a enclosed kitchen over here as well. Okay, and moving on to the comparisons of the 3-bed 2-bath in the rear area, we have River Green coming in at 786 and 883 square feet. We have Promenade Peak at 1033, 1076 square feet, and of course we have those in Zyon Grand at 800 square feet. So in terms of the arrangement here, River Green, it has the smallest 3-bed 2-bath, followed by Zyon Grand and Promenade Peak for the 3-bed 2-bath. In honesty, if let's say I'm talking about the 818 square feet layout, I don't really prefer this layout because it's very similar to a 2-bed 2-bath layout that they have over here. They do not have a tuck-in kitchen, which these two other projects have. So in terms of the layout itself, I think that I would prefer the other two projects. But when it comes to the 861 square feet, this is super efficient, and this is my favorite layout for the 3-bed 2-bath for Zyon Grand, and I think it gives a very good competition where I'm pitting it against Promenade Peak or even River Green. So later on, when we look at the pricing, we'll be more able to gauge whether or not it's a safe price to enter for the 3-bed 2-bath at Zyon Grand. And moving on to the 3-bed 3-bath, okay, as mentioned, this layout is very similar to the one at Promenade Peak, but for Promenade Peak, these two layouts are coming under their Promenade Suites series, so they're only available at the 44th floor and above. So in terms of the pricing that you can get, because Zyon Grand's 3-bed plus 3-bed 3-bath layout, this one is from level 2 all the way until level 61, so potentially you will be able to buy a lower PSF for this layout, and as a result, you'll be able to enjoy a lot of savings when it comes to the pricing when we compare this 3-bed 3-bath and this 3-bed 3-bath. So I believe that based on this pricing and per square foot itself, you might be able to get some good deals over at Zyon Grand. And in terms of the layout, this is my favorite layout. Honestly, this is my favorite layout, but there's very limited stock, and the pricing can be much higher compared to Zyon Grand. As mentioned, later on when we look at the pricing, we'll be able to understand better. So this is the pricing. The purple color that we have over here are for the 3-bed 2-bath for River Green. This one is for Promenade Peak and Grand Zyon. So for the 818 square feet for Zyon Grand, that is not really my favorite. And when I look at the pricing, right, if I compare with River Green, then potentially, if let's say if I'm comparing with the 786 square feet, definitely I'm paying more. But when I look at the price quantum, the price difference between the 872, 883 square feet, right, there's a price gap of about 100 to 200,000 already. So potentially, if I really want to stay in a 3-bed 2-bath here, and if my luck hasn't been so good for River Green so far, I might consider this 3-bed 2-bath for Grand Zyon, so purely because of the price. But based on the size and the layout, the sweet spot over here is the 861 square feet, where the price quantum is between 2.4 to 2.6. So I compare with Promenade Peak's layout, potentially I save about almost close to $300,000. When I move on to the 3-bedroom 3-bed 3-bath plus study, okay, as mentioned just now, because Promenade Peak's 3-bedroom premium starts from level 44 and above, so the pricing that starts for the unit starts from 3,001 all the way to about 3,004 or even 3,005. So that gives a quantum of about 3.6 million all the way to 3.9 million. And when I compare it with Grand Zyon's price, maybe on the lower floor, I can even pay less than 3 million to get a unit over here. And when we compare this with Promenade Peak, the savings here can range up to 600,000. And not only that, right, during the launch of Promenade Peak itself, the 3-bedroom premium sold very well. Reason because even for the newer resale in the area, for example, the 3-bed 3-bath in Riviere or the 3-bed 3-bath in 𝑭𝒊𝒄𝒄, when you take a look at the listing prices now, so when we compare these pricings to the resale or to the newer 3-bed 3-bath resales in the area, let's say for example Riviere, the pricing, asking average pricing is about 3.8 million. That's why Promenade Peak's 3-bedroom premium has sold very well. And if we get this kind of pricing at below 3.5 million, I think that is really worth it to consider. And I haven't even talked about 𝑭𝒊𝒄𝒄. If you look at their 3-bed 3-bath pricing, they're asking above 4 million right now, and not forgetting that their size that they have may be slightly bigger, but end of the day, that is also non-harmonized. So when we do take into account the calculations of harmonization, that price could potentially be lower, that size can potentially be lower for 𝑭𝒊𝒄𝒄, and that gives it a higher per square foot as well. So I really do recommend you considering the 3 bedrooms in Grand Zyon, and then we'll finish it off with their 4 bedrooms and 5 bedrooms over here. And this series is the Enduring Luxury series, which is their 4 bedroom to 5 bedrooms. So over here, the main difference is more over at the kitchen and the bathroom area. And just now I forgot to add on that for the kitchen system, for the units in Grand Zyon, they will be introducing a integrated magnetic accessories wall system by Corten. So this is something where you do not have to drill on the walls, and it's a magnetic system where you can just paste over at the wall and you can shift it around easily to suit your needs, which is something that I've not seen in most of the projects in Singapore, and that's something that you should take note of when you're visiting the show flat. And of course, the wardrobes, they'll be using Kakaro. The one for the smaller bedroom types, they'll be using the one that folds. And for the bigger bedroom types like the 4 bedrooms, 5 bedrooms, they do have a premium version for their walk-in wardrobe for the bigger bedroom types. Okay, and let's move on to the 4 bedroom layout. 4 bedrooms here, 1421 square feet. So the concept is very similar to a 3+ study in the sense that all the rooms are one side. So for these 4 bedrooms, not only do we have 4 bedrooms, out of these 4 bedrooms, we do have the junior master over here. It comes with a private lift, and all in all, we do have a landscape living dining area. And not only that, it comes with a dry kitchen and wet kitchen as well. So this is a layout which I find it very nice and efficient. It will be a very bright unit because all the rooms are along one side. And of course, as mentioned, living dining area is landscape mode. So a lot of light will be coming in over here. And not to mention that we do get a big size living dining area in terms of the feeling, because the dry kitchen is also considered part of the living space as well, where where your guests can move freely around if you have them over. And moving on to the next stack 1518 square feet. The layout is very similar in terms of the arrangement of the bedrooms. So one main difference here is that instead of having a dry kitchen that lead directly to the wet kitchen that we can see over here, this one you do get a separation in terms of the dry kitchen and the wet kitchen area. And then of course for the master bath, we do have a his and her sink compared to the 1421 which only has one sink. So all these are nice touches to have for the 1518 square feet in Zyon Grand. And both of these layouts will be up until the 40 over stories, because from 44 stories, 43 stories onwards, it will be another layout type, which is the bigger 4 bedroom and the 5 bedroom that I'm going to show you right now. So we have the bigger 4 bedroom, 4 bed 4 bath plus study. This one also has a private lift because it's the same stack as the 4 bedroom that we have just seen here just now over this stack 8. So the main difference here is that the master bedroom is slightly longer, okay, that extends over here. So one of the main differences is in the room sizes, where the master bedroom of this 4 bed 4 bath plus study, it actually extends out from here to here to be slightly bigger, so you can accommodate another dressing table. And for the junior master also, it extends out a little bit more, so we created another space for the study room over here. And lastly, over here, when we comparing the 4 bedroom layouts for Promenade Peak and Grand Zyon, I excluded River Green because the size is very small at 980 square feet, so it's very difficult to compare, and I believe that it targets different audience. So for Promenade Peak, you can see that one of the rooms is this side, while the other 3 are here. Same for this one. And for Promenade Peak, what I like about this kitchen is that it's very nice. It's very big at 1582 square feet. So after this, we'll look at the pricing to compare between these 2 layouts for Promenade Peak and Grand Zyon. So the 1421 and the 1518 square feet, they start from 2nd floor until the 42nd floor. So potentially you're able to enter at a lower quantum because the PSF is much lower, while the one for Promenade Peak 4 bedroom premiums, they start from 44th floor onwards. So it has to come with a certain per square foot. So when we compare this and this, you do get to see price gaps of about 600,000 to almost $900,000 difference. So this is something that I will really consider if I can get not too high a floor for Grand Zyon, because that will keep my PSF low. And of course, for the 4 bed 4 bath plus study with the private lift, this one starts above 44th floor. So potentially this can be of a higher pricing compared to Promenade Peak. But if you want something that is sea facing, that is south facing, then this is something that Promenade Peak might not be able to offer, while Grand Zyon is able to offer you these views over to the Sentosa and the sea. And moving on, lastly, we come to the 5 bedrooms. This 5 bedroom is at stack 1, and at the lower floors, this is also a 4 bedroom. So compared to the 4 bed 4 bath at stack 1 on the lower floor, which is 1518 square feet, so this one is 1819 square feet. The main space that they have created here is over at this side. So this area used to be the junior master, and now they've shifted it here and accommodated one more bedroom. So to me, I feel that if given this and the 4 bedrooms, if I don't need 5 bedrooms, then maybe I will just take the 4 bed 4 bath. Reason being because these walls may not be able to hack, so I cannot create another big junior master room by removing this wall here. So unless I really need 5 bedrooms, then maybe I will consider this layout. And just a little bit difference over here also at the back as well. The master wardrobe is slightly bigger, but is this something that I really need? I'm not sure. But if I really want a 5 bedroom here with a very nice sea view, then this is something that we can consider. And now let's look at the pricing difference between this one and Promenade Peak. Good thing is that for Zyon Grand, these units, they only have 18 units, so the supply is really tight. And I recall for the 5 bedroom for Promenade Peak, right, it's actually west facing. So if you don't mind having good unblocked views that faces over to the west, then you can consider Promenade Peak. Otherwise, if you want something more of a sea view, then potentially you can consider Zyon Grand as well. I do expect that the demand for this compared to its supply to be very strong in terms of people wanting to buy this unit. And these are the pricings that we see. So because the size is slightly smaller, 1819 square feet, there are some savings in terms of the price. But when you're looking at this kind of price point, basically to me, it's just buying what you like lah. I mean, the price difference between this and this is not a lot. So it's really about being able to find something which you really like, and not forgetting that they are not really building 5 bedroom at these sizes anymore. And lastly, we'll just see the penthouse layout. I'll just show you very quickly. This is on the 62nd floor, 6208, that's facing more towards the south, and one more for the penthouse layout over at block 3. Okay, so this concludes my video review. Thank you for staying until here. And if you do have any questions with regards to Grand Zyon, Penrith, Sky at Holland, or even the Sand and Faber residences, do feel free to reach out to us, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!